back to my channel. And tonight's book will be The Book of Lost Tales, Part 2, History of Middle-earth 2. So let's begin. Then Ariel told her of his home, that was in an old town of men, girt with a wall now crumbled and broken, and a river ran thereby, over which a castle with a great tower hung. A very high tower indeed, said he, and the moon climbed high or ever he thrust his face above it. Was it then as high as Ingil's Tirin? Said Viane. But Ariel said that he could not guess, for 'twas very many years agone since he had seen that castle or its tower. For, O Viane, said he, I lived there but for a while, and not after I was grown to be a boy. My father came of a coastward folk, and the love of the sea that I had never seen was in my bones. And my father whetted my desire, for he told me tales that his father had told him before. Now my mother died in a cruel and hungry siege of that old town, and my father was slain in bitter fight about the walls. And in the end I, Ariel, escaped to the shoreland of the western sea, and mostly have lived upon the bosom of the waves, or by its side, since those far days. Now the children about were filled with sadness at the sorrows that fell on those dwellers in the great lands, and at the wars and death. And Viane clung to Ariel, saying, O Melinon, go never to a war, or haste thou ever yet. Aye, often enough, said Ariel, but not to the great wars of the earthly kings and mighty nations, which are cruel and bitter, and many fair lands and lovely things, and even women and sweet maids, such as thou, Viane Melinir, are whelmed by them in ruin. Yet gallant a phrase have I seen, wherein small bands of brave men do sometimes meet, and swift blows are dealt. But behold, why speak we of these things, little one? Wouldst not hear rather of my first ventures on the sea? Then was there much eagerness alight, and Ariel told them of his wanderings about the western havens, of the comrades he made and the ports he knew, of how he was wrecked upon far western islands, until at last upon one lonely one he came on an ancient sailor, who gave him shelter, and over a fire within his lonely cabin told him strange tales of things beyond the western seas, of the magic isles and that most lonely one that lay beyond. Long ago had he once sighted it shining afar off, and after had he sought it many a day in vain. Ever after, said Ariel, did I sail more curiously about the western isles, seeking more stories of the kind, and thus it is indeed that after many great voyages I came myself by the blessing of the gods to Tol Eressëa in the end. Wherefore I now sit here talking to thee, Viane, till my words have run dry. Then nonetheless did a boy Ausir beg him to tell more of ships in the sea, but Ariel said, "Nay, still is there time ere Ilfiniol ring the gong for evening meat. Come, one of you children, tell me a tale that you have heard." Then Veane sat up and clapped her hands, saying, "I will tell you the tale of Tinuviel." "Who was then Tinuviel?" said Ariel. "Know you not?" said Ausir. "Tinuviel was the daughter of Tinwe Linto." "Tinwe Lint," said Viane. "But," said the other, "'tis all one. But the elves of this house, who love the tale, do say Tinwe Linto, though Vaere hath said that Tinwe alone is his right name, ere he wandered in the woods." "Hush thee, Ausir," said Viane, "for it is my tale, and I will tell it to Ariel. Did I not see Gwendolen and Tinuviel once with my own eyes, when journeying by the way of dreams in long past days? What was Queen Gwendolen like? For so do the elves call her, O Viane, if thou sawest her," said Ausir. "Slender and very dark of hair," said Viane, "and her skin was white and pale, but her eyes shone and seemed deep, and she was clad in filmy garments, most lovely yet of black, jet-spangled and girt with silver. If ever she sang, or if she danced, dreams and slumbers passed over your head and made it heavy. Indeed, she was a sprite that escaped from Lorien's gardens before even Coral was built, and she wandered in the wooded places of the world, and nightingales went with her and often sang about her. It was the song of these birds that smote the ears of Tinwelint, leader of that tribe of the Eldar, that after were the Solosimpi, the pipers of the shore, as he fared with his companions behind the horse of Orome from Palisor. Iluvatar had set a seed of music in the hearts of all that kindred, or so Vaere saith, and she is of them, and it blossomed after very wondrously. But now the song of Gwendolen's nightingales was the most beautiful music that Tinwelint had ever heard, and he strayed aside for a moment, as he thought from the host, seeking in the dark trees whence it might come. And it is said that it was not a moment he hearkened, but many years, and vainly his people sought him, until at length they followed Orome, and were borne upon tall Eresea far away, and he saw them never again. Yet after a while, as it seemed to him, he came upon Gwendolen, lying in a bed of leaves, gazing at the stars above her, and hearkening also to her birds. Now Tinwelint, stepping softly, stooped and looked upon her, thinking, Lo, here is a fairer being even than the most beautiful of my own folk. For indeed Gwendolen was not elf or woman, but of the children of the gods, and bending further to touch a tress of her hair, he snapped a twig with his foot. Then Gwendolen was up and away laughing softly, sometimes singing distantly, or dancing ever just before him, till a swoon of fragrant slumbers fell upon him, and he fell face downward neath the trees and slept a very great while. Alright, so that was the passage, part of the story, and there's a lot more to go. I think I'm gonna continue this in the next video. So if you like this kind of reading, do give it a like and do consider to subscribe. Also do share with someone you know who would love and appreciate this kind of reading. So anyway, it's bedtime. Well, it is a bedtime story, so I feel like going to sleep now. So I'll wish you have a good night and have a good rest. So until then, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.